Welcome to De-Stress Your Business, the podcast where we show you how to get incredible results in your business without constant stress. I'm Alexis Kingsbury, a serial entrepreneur and founder at AirManual. Now, in today's episode, I'm excited to introduce you to Ian Morgan. Ian, along with his wife Sam, runs MBS Accountants, a firm dedicated to helping small businesses not just meet their accounting deadlines, but actually develop and to grow. And I've known Ian for many years and have seen firsthand his passion for solving business owners' problems and for always looking for ways to improve, including through his work with us at AirManual. And in fact, I'm remembering that there's that some listeners may have heard me talk about an accounting business with a super smooth client onboarding process that's been mentioned by some other clients of ours, and that's Ian's. So really, really glad to have him here. Ian's also the host of the Leaky Bucket Podcast, where he provides a real-world view of the challenges and triumphs of entrepreneurship. So I'm really looking forward to kind of delving deep with Ian on both cash flow and business problems more widely. Ian, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Alexis. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. Well, when I reached out and said, please can we get this interview in, it was particularly because we've been doing a series of episodes around cash flow, because that's an issue that is the source of a stress for a lot of business owners, right? Is that cash flow management. And I know that you've had a load of experience with improving cash flow with your clients and how you essentially fix those leaks in our business buckets and ultimately make our money work harder for us rather than us for it. So, Ian, could you tell us a bit about your journey from accountant, successful entrepreneur, podcaster, business leader? Like, how have you got to the point where you've got this this great insight that I know you have?
Yeah, through many trials and tribulations, I think, Alexis, along the way. In a snapshot, I think from the point of where I joined Sam in the business back in 2009, I think it was, we were the typical accounting practice at that point. So all the things you mentioned that we do now, we did not do then. We were a tax return factory, if you like. Lots and lots of clients, but all we did was basically form fill and do everything we need to do. Me being me, though, at that time, it looked like growth. And there was growth. It was definitely moving in the right direction. But come sort of 2015 or so, it became the point of actually that we'd got so many clients that those age-old things of what you tried to do through entrepreneurship, so to gain more control, to have more free time and to make more money, it was absolutely the inverse at that point. And it was just like, actually, something has to change. If we keep doing what we're doing, this doesn't scale, this doesn't work. And it's an absolute mess of a business at that point. Although there was still a large number of clients who appreciated what we were doing, but it was just firefighting. So I think at the peak, I was the sole contact for around about 600 clients, which, it's pretty much that every day, all the time. So then we set about to go within the accounting industry. You've got most accountants moaning / complaining, frustrated that clients won't take additional services. So they just want the year-end accounts and the tax return. Nobody wants cash flow forecasting. Nobody wants management accounts advice or anything like that. And I started just to get out and educate myself. Started reading a few books, started joining a few mastermind groups, and started to uncover and go, actually, there are people out there who want this information, who are equally as frustrated because their accountants won't or can't provide it. And I think actually they were probably working with the same accountants, but what was happening was neither was actually saying. So because there was a lack of communication, everybody was just frustrated with the whole situation. So we set about to go, okay, we need to work out who we can really help and how are we really going to help them, and how do we make it smooth and simple and based on processes and systems. And then they then embarked a pretty tough sort of 4 or 5 year journey to go from mass number of clients with low relationship and low value added to a lower number of clients with high relationship and high value added. And to give context, we're probably, so back then we were a team of realistically 4, but with me as the face of the company and the client manager, if you like, to now being a team of 12 and only 150 clients. Right. So the big change and shift over that period was me getting out of my own way. All the processes and systems and everything you mentioned now is because I started to see from everything I was reading and learning about the value that Sam could bring in terms of she loved lists, she loved processes, she loved systems, she loved predictable outcomes, where I was a bit more fly by night. We'll just see what happens. That got us that far. It wasn't what was going to get us to that next level. So I learned to lean on Sam significantly more, let her sort of run and operate things day to day. And I can be free just to come up with ideas and test and see how we can improve and move things forward. Sam can be the control center, if you like, of the business.
Love that. And so, and also for context, because what you describe of having 600 clients with 4 of you and you being the point of contact for everyone, and then moving to a position of having 150 clients and 12 of you and you not being the point of contact, obviously in terms of quality of life, there's a huge improvement there in terms of, I know that, you're able to take holidays and not be required day to day in the business and all those sorts of things. Whereas that wasn't the case previously. But some might look at that and go, oh, but financially, presumably you're making more money when you had 600 clients and only 4 people on your payroll versus 150 clients and 12 people on your payroll. Is that the case, or is that not?
No, absolutely not. The complete inverse, the opposite. I think profitability is probably up 7 or 8 times compared to where it was at that point. I'm not sure where turnover is. Don't tend to measure that as much. It is much more about turnover and about profit and cash flow. Everything just moved in the right direction. Like I say, it was a messy 4 years where we're starting to go, well, who do we really help the best? How do we help them? Some people want to be helped, some don't. That was tough trying to figure out to go, we've told you we offer this value for so long, but that's not the value that we really think is valuable. We're going to offer this value instead. And some people are like, yeah, but I didn't sign up for that. I don't value that. And you've got to get comfortable and go, okay. And that's hard because that was your own ego, I suppose, that got you to that level. And now suddenly you're having to go, no, people now think I'm wrong. And the self-doubt, I suppose, kicks in. But it was no battle through. It was almost that permission to be selfish, to go, yes, clients are amazing and you really, really want to help them. But actually, if somebody wants to come to us for guidance and advice on a highly profitable cash flowing business, if we can't even run one of those ourselves, why would they want to take advice from us? So actually, it was just going, no, we need to be selfish. We need to get that working. And then people want to work with us because they want to be able to emulate the elements of what we're able to do. So start with our own business. Everything that we would like an ideal client to have, we should have. And it shouldn't just be me doing it. The team should be doing that because that's the proof of concept that it works. And yeah, that's ultimately where it sprung from. But yeah, a lot more profitable, a lot more cash flow positive now with less clients than what we were with more clients.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, as you say, one of the things that really strikes me is how the way that you run your business is you practice what you preach. And the guidance that you give to business owners is excellent. And I love that, as you say, you apply that to make sure that you get those results and experience it for yourself. And as a result, I mean, you've developed a reputation for helping small businesses not just meet the deadlines, but prepare, but to make their money work harder and to put their business in a strong position. Can you perhaps share some of the key strategies that you found to be most effective, some of the practices, the processes that you recommend, and as a result, do yourself to get better results?
Yeah, so I think what we learned over that period was that every business owner is chasing financial freedom, whatever that may look like to them, but ultimately that's what they're chasing, which is we describe as ultimately the balance between the amount of money they're able to earn, but the amount of time they've then got to be able to enjoy that as well. So everybody they come to us wanting that, but then there's two fundamental elements that have to happen first in order for that to be a reality. The first element is financial control. That is ultimately up-to-date, good quality bookkeeping. Because if you don't have that up-to-date and you don't have everything categorized in the right way, accounting for VAT and everything correctly, when you have these firefighting moments as a business owner, which are inevitable at some point, something's bound to come along. How do you bring yourself back to logic and go, hang on, our business was financially stable yesterday. It's highly unlikely that it's not financially stable today. But it can feel like that because some major catastrophe has happened, or what feels like a major catastrophe. If that data was only up to date at your last VAT return 3 months ago, all sorts can be going on in your head and going, actually, it's 90 days is a long time. A lot could have happened in that period. So financial control is the fundamental key. Then there's financial clarity, which is where we start to come in with things like the effectiveness of cash flow. But we start with an education for the business owner, because there's the first point of a business is being able to just sell, get people in and then serve them. And I think there then becomes a level where people are operating probably a multi-six-figure business, but they don't really understand the financials. But there's almost an embarrassment to admit that you don't understand the financials. So people just sort of pretend. And our job is to basically extract that and go, you don't need to pretend. Like, just go, this is what I get. I don't even need to know what I don't understand. I just need to know what I do understand. And more importantly, our job then is not to teach them to be an accountant, because nobody really wants to do that.
Even accountants.
It's to teach them and get them that level of understanding so they can tell what's good and what's bad in their business and what that means for them. So financial clarity then stems into management reports that are easy and clear to understand. Most people who are using accountant numbers are scary, or they're difficult to read and they don't make sense. So let's just move the numbers out of the way. Let's make it very visual, very easy to read and understand, and provide video commentary and analysis. That, again, if you go and see 3 sheets of A4 with all this commentary on it, who wants to read that? Whereas actually just watching a video and letting it take you through that story is easier to consume, and therefore easier to be aware of what's happening in your business from a financial understanding perspective. Cash flow then is the key element behind that. To go, that's already told you then potentially you're now working towards a profitable business. But the key element is you still paying yourself last, and cash becomes the problem, and then you go, there isn't enough there. And I think the fundamental underlying principle of that is accountants are very quick to train somebody that if they're moving from a sole trader to a limited company, is you've got to remember that the business money isn't your money, so keep it all separate. But I think then what happens is there's this disassociation between business money and the relationship the business has with you. And so it's easy to spend business money because there's lots more of it potentially. And then there becomes a problem to go, hang on, I've spent all the business money, now I can't get paid. So we try and bring back that closeness of that relationship to go, it may not be your money and you can't just take it all and spend it or whatever. But if you do go and spend it on this luxury piece of software, or this amazing new MacBook when a basic laptop would have worked or whatever, that means you can't have that money. So just slow down that sort of decision process about what you're spending money on. Be very select in terms of that. With the free cash flow, financial freedom becomes a lot easier, because money doesn't necessarily make the world go round, although it's obviously very helpful, but it's a lot easier with money around to make some key decisions, because sometimes you can buy your way out of a problem.
Yeah.
So it's that journey, but nobody wants to buy financial control, because that's boring. Yeah, everybody wants to buy financial freedom. So that's our pathway and our journey that everybody goes on to get financial freedom, whatever that may look like to them.
Love that. I think and that's something that I've seen when working with you, in like your passion for how do you actually make how do you actually get a business leader to a point that they can make decisions that are better for the business. And you mentioned like sharing videos with the client to explain what they're looking at, rather than just dumping a load of P&L statements and whatever and just go, there you go, interesting. And I've had conversations with accountants in the past where they try and talk me through what they're seeing in the numbers, and they don't understand the business enough to do that. And it's so long after that period anyway, it's all irrelevant. And yet I know that your approach is completely the opposite, right? Is that you get enough knowledge that you can make real insight, and you do it soon enough that that decision is going to be useful. I think one of the things that strikes me is when we look at cash flow management specifically, as you say, you want to be profitable, but ultimately we're talking about financial freedom. That's about having cash. It's about having cash that makes you feel secure. It's about having cash that works for you, and that you've got sufficient left over on top of kind of safety net that can be invested and can provide ongoing income. I'll use the vernacular of leaks, because you host the Leaky Bucket podcast. Like, what are some of the leaks to people's cash flow that means that a business that should be generating good cash flow, that a business leader, a business owner who should have good cash position, ends up not doing? Because we both know some incredible business owners who do amazing things, grow incredibly quickly, and yet essentially end up broke. So what are the leaks that mean that they don't end up with financial freedom, when even though the business is strong?
There's numerous. They're in every corner of the business, but I think there's probably a few key ones that may be easy starting points.
Yeah.
I think it's knowing who you truly identify with. So then, therefore, the value that you're really offering. Are you helping somebody move away from a particular pain? Are they moving towards a pleasure or an outcome? Really know how you can help. Another key one is people giving discounts. That it's seen as almost a done thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think people forget, if they've got £100 service and it only makes 20% profit, and you go and so it's making £20, and you give a 10% discount. Well, it's only £10 of £100. You've just halved your profit. You've halved your cash flow on that particular deal. So now you've got to do another £100 deal at your 10% discount, so at £90 to get back. So now you've got to serve two customers to get what you would have done with one customer. So it's certainly not giving discounts, unless there's got to be a contra with it. So the price can go down if we remove these services, for example. So you can get the appropriate balance.
Essentially, so that your profit margin stays similar, right?
Yeah, so you protect that, certainly being aware of it, to go, actually, if I am giving this discount, that does mean maybe I do need two people now with that same level to do what I could have done with one. So do I want that decision? Am I okay working twice as many hours now to earn the same money, or the team having to do that? The other is the big mistake I made, that I've already mentioned, that we got fixed, which is not operating your business on systems and processes. It's huge. That I think people think they can do it by just hiring people like them.
Yeah.
And that is usually a quick way to find out that all the things that you hate doing still don't get done, because you just got more people like you doing the things that you love doing. So it's being strategic. If you've got the systems and processes, and then you can document all the things you don't like doing, hire the people that do like doing them, because they do exist. So I suppose that's two almost in one. It's the systems and the processes, and then it's strategic hiring to get people doing the stuff that you don't like doing. Though I think in those few areas stops things significantly. The other is almost then what I mentioned on earlier, is that relationship between the business money and your own money. So don't pay yourself last. Like one of our education programs is, let's just rewrite the cash flow statement, right? Which is effectively income less your essential expenses. So the essential cost that it needs to deliver the quality of service that you want to deliver. And now you've got like a gross cash position. Now you need to plug in what you're going to get paid. And now everything else that you are paying for that technically now is optional.
Yeah.
Can you plug that back in? Do you want to plug it back in? And if that means that actually there's more to plug back in than what you've got left, there's only a couple of moving factors, which is you need to increase the cash coming into the business, or you need to decrease the cash that you're taking out. But now it's a conscious decision as opposed to just being a result.
Yes.
And suddenly people go, I know I was paying for that, but is that a value? Maybe not. And it can be numerous areas, but people very quickly overspend. And I think it's that training originally to go, yeah, but business money isn't your money, so don't just take it. But now it's completely separate, and the business in those early stages, the business could have 10 times the money that you've got personally. So therefore, you can spend some of that, can't we?
Yeah.
We can shift some of that money to you if you don't spend it.
Yeah, I really like that perspective, and I think it applies a much stronger lens to how you're essentially investing money in growth, rather than it just sort of disappears out and you kind of feel like, oh well, yeah, a lot of it's invested in growth, and actually it helps on both ends of the scale, right? It helps you get really clear about, are my essential costs too high as well? Because if you kind of look at it and go, you know what, before I even get to growth, I'm already down only to like 10% profit margin and cash coming out of this, I'm not going to be able to to fund this. Whereas if there's a big amount of room there, so I think that's powerful. To get quite a little tactical, just for a moment, for doing that, so that you can produce cash flow statements that have that kind of clarity, and for other business leaders who go, yeah, I want that kind of visibility. Are you literally doing that in your chart of accounts with different account codes that either correlate to essentially business growth or essential expenditure? And so, for example, does that mean that you would split that out for IT software, where you'd have some IT software that's considered essential and then some that's growth? Do you literally have those separated as different account codes?
Yeah. So for example, like we couldn't do what we do without using Xero, right? It's fundamental to what we do. So Xero as a piece of software is key. Yes, we could change it. We can go QuickBooks or Sage, but it's here or there in terms of the cost. We can't really do it without it. But then if we've got other software in the background, like we might be using Zoom for meetings, we can do it without. We could do it with Microsoft Teams because we've already got that with Microsoft subscriptions or something. We're paying additional for it. Do we want to pay additional? That's a luxury. That's an option. That's a choice.
Nice.
So, but Xero's not a choice. Yeah,
yeah.
I suppose technically you could argue we could do it all on Excel and then
it's where you draw the line.
Yeah, but in terms of the efficiency in our business model, in terms of being an online business, having that process and systems, Xero or a cloud accounting platform is essential to that. So that's an essential cost to our business. But the likes of Zoom is an optional luxury choice because we find that a more stable platform to host meetings. We actually have our calls through Zoom as well. So that works well. yes, there's cheaper options, but we're sort of cutting away on quality then.
Yeah, it's interesting because not only does it help with that visibility of cash flow, I guess that if you then have a problem with profitability or cash flow, it makes it very easy for you to identify where you could cut costs, right? Because as you said, Zoom, if we take the Zoom versus Microsoft Teams as an example, we're in a similar situation, right? In theory, in fact, I spotted the other day, it's like, oh wait, in theory, we could use Google Meet. Like we've got a Google Apps account. So all of our team could use Google Meet. We also have Office 365, so all of our teams could use Microsoft Teams. And yet we pay a significant amount each year to use Zoom because it's sufficiently user-friendly and as a result creates efficiency. But you're right, there are examples of those decisions where if push came to shove, we could reduce our costs by significant amounts in a very quick, relatively quick period of time to get down to that level. And it's quite useful as a thought experiment in terms of what would your business look like if you did all of them and therefore be able to adjust. And essentially that's what you're recommending and what you're doing with visibility monthly or more often, right? Is that constant view of being able to see what would your business look like if you cut some of those costs versus what you're doing. So that's pretty amazing. And when we were looking at processes to include, we wrote a guide, the Business Leader's Guide to Improving Cash Flow, and we came up with a series of what are the processes that we have in our business to help us manage cash flow and that we'd recommend for others. It's interesting when you get to that level of nuance, when you say actually reviewing the cash flow statement with this level of detail has such power. Like the ability for a business owner to just go, oh, well, yeah, I've already got a process for reviewing our budget monthly. I'm now going to just add in a step there where my finance administrator also needs to share the cash flow statement broken down in the way that you've just described. And here we're going to ask these questions. Like that's so powerful in terms of being able to then do that. So talk to us about like the impact. What is it in businesses where you've worked with them, you've helped them get visibility on cash flow, you've helped them plug some of the leaks and be more mindful, conscious of their decisions about investment on business growth. What's the impact? How does it change in terms of what it feels like for the business owner and what happens in their business?
Yeah, I think lots of these occasions where it can fall off track is as they go through significant milestones in the business, and the business makes a significant shift, usually over a short space of time, and things can fall a little bit off track, whether that's in terms of actual financial performance or that, I don't know, they only wanted to work 20 hours per week and now but I wanted to scale my business, and now all of a sudden you're working 70, 80 hours per week. And you go, hang on, was that the value I really wanted? So some clear examples are, we've got both extremes of those. You've got somebody who's scaled their business significantly from a low six-figure revenue business to a low seven-figure revenue business within just over a 12-month period.
Wow.
And somehow managed at the end of that to basically have the same profit that they'd had the year before, which you then go, okay, well, what quite happened? What went wrong? It's a significant shift. We could see some effects of this going, but at the time you're doing it, it looks like reinvestment and so on. And then you go, hang on, you're going to stabilize. You can't keep on this pathway.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at? How have those optional costs, how have they sort of crept up? And actually, just by pausing and going through this and going, look, it's okay to be intentional about the growth, but let's be intentional about the point, which was to make more money. And actually very quickly through around about a 2-hour exercise of just reviewing those and just questioning to go, are you sure that that's really, really needed? All of a sudden, by the end of that 2-hour conversation, we've found nearly £25,000 per month.
Whoa.
Of additional cash flow. And you go, well, okay, that's potentially life-changing.
Yeah, 300,000 a year,
yeah. And it was, in terms of that person, they were able to buy their first property. They never been able to get on the property market before. They live in London. It's difficult. And yeah, all of a sudden it was actually, hang on, we can achieve this. This is possible. So there's one in terms of a financial perspective, in terms of having that availability. The other, I suppose, links back to it's cash flow related, but it's knowing the cash flow is on track. That we had somebody who their goal was to be able to give back to their church and their community, because they'd had a tough personal challenge, and the church and the community had really helped them out. So now they were getting their financial house in order. They were like, how do we be able to give back? So they wanted one day during the week to be able to give to their community, and they wanted their Sundays free for giving to the church and being available to go to the church. And they started off that intention, and then business started to get a bit busier. There were a few inquiries and so on. And just as a regular check-in we had with them, we just found out and went, okay, how's the church and the community thing going? Oh yeah, well, we sort of paused that a little bit moment. And it's just that thing to go, hang on, but why? Oh, because we got all these new inquiries. Yeah, but hang on, you told me money wasn't important. It was time to give to the community, and it was time to give back to the church. Are you sure you're living the values that you wanted to get from this? And it was that thing to go, oh yeah, hang on, I've fallen back into, I can be busy because there's inquiries. We should fulfill them. But actually the cash flow is fine. Like, if you don't take this additional work, you're still doing and achieving what you set out to achieve. But by taking this additional work, you're not living the purposeful life you wanted to live, which was where we come back to that financial freedom. It's different for everybody. The one with the £300,000 of additional positive cash flow per year, theirs was definitely a financial goal. They needed a financial freedom, and the hours and what they were able to do wasn't as important. For this other family, it was, no, the hours are significantly more important at this time. So how do we achieve that? And it was that by having the up-to-date information, by them having the clarity, by us being able to have that relationship because of the lower number of clients, we were able to have that conversation and just go, hang on, are you being purposeful with what you wanted? Has it changed? Or have you just fallen a little bit off track?
Yeah, I love that. And the clarity of purpose and having that kind of goal of where they're trying to get to, and the fact that you're then helping them manage the financials towards that, I think is so powerful. Like when you mentioned earlier on in the interview, you talked about how for most people, setting up a business, building a business is about financial freedom in whatever form they feel, whether it's financially free, that they have enough money that means that they can spend their Sundays and another day per week with the church and all these such things, or being able to buy a house, whatever. Ultimately, we all have our own goal. And part of the challenge is getting really clear on what does that look like, at what stage of life and whatever, and then working backwards to achieve it. I love your approach of A, having that clarity and checking in on that, but B, making sure that all of your financial reporting essentially helps you make those decisions in line with that, because any step taken in the direction in which you want to go is a good one. Whereas, 100 steps in a direction you didn't want to go is a waste of time. And so, I absolutely love that. In terms of, there's various areas that we've covered. Unfortunately, we're running short on time, so I can't go deeper. But are there resources, tools, strategies that you'd recommend to a business leader, particularly one who's perhaps struggling with managing their cash flow at the moment and feels like, the bucket is leaky. I'm not making as much money as I would expect. And actually, it's worse than that. I'm a bit fearful about what happens going forward.
Yeah, I think there's two probably real quick processes that can be done. The one is just grab, ideally, the last 3 months bank statements, but for the business. But if you can't, actually, I'm going to say business, you can do it personally as well, right? But at least go back for the last month. If you get 3 months, you'll get some irregularities that are popping up as well, some not just the regular direct debits and regular monthly subscriptions, but literally then just grab 2 highlighters, a green one and a red one, And the green one is, this is definitely go, this is essential to the business. And the red is, no, if push came to shove, this could go. And you've got to be quite brutal.
Yep.
But you can get a quick picture, and then you just add up all the red stuff and just go, how much cash flow could we, and it's could, but how much cash flow could we generate? Because every business has got money they're spending that they don't need to spend. Obviously, you mentioned about, actually, you've got 3 ways that you could do online meetings. And do you need them all? At the moment in time, if cash flow is great, then actually, yeah, you're choosing the best option because it offers additional values. But actually, if cash flow was tight, like you say, then actually you can go, well, we have a decision actually. Is the decision that big? Should we be making that? The other is, people get excited about doing the fancy stuff that we said about, so the cash flow forecasting, the management accounts, getting FDs in, and all of this kind of stuff. If you don't have the financial control, which is just up-to-date, good quality bookkeeping, none of the other stuff can be done.
Yeah.
So the bookkeepers actually in this world are the ones who get undervalued, because it's seen as a low value task. But ultimately, all this other stuff that we want doesn't work unless that's happening. So have you got somebody in place who's got a robust system and process that means that they're going to produce up-to-date, timely and accurate information that you can make decisions off? If you don't have that in place, everything else is going to fall apart at some point. So you need to have that. And we actually call it our Queen Bee role, which is a bit of I can't remember where the theory came from, but it's from bees effectively, which is all the worker bees effectively all have their duties of whatever that might be, whether it's helping build the hive, whether it's off going collecting pollen, whatever it might be. But the moment that the queen bee is under threat, signals are sent out and everybody cancels all their other jobs and they protect the queen bee. And so our queen bee role is bookkeeping, because all of our other services that we do, where we're advising and helping clients do all of this, if a client's bookkeeping is under threat, we can't help, because that moment they have but I've just lost my major contract with a client, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling scared, whatever. How do we help? Well, we go back to the financial information. If that financial information is out of date or inaccurate, we can't help them come back to logic. We're just going to exacerbate the emotional reaction at that moment in time.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, that having that transparency, that clarity, and I think that's come up again and again for me as we've kind of done this series around cash flow. Is that so much of it is getting that visibility of what the situation is. In a previous episode when I spoke to Clayton M. Coke, who runs the cash flow show, and his background is like debt recovery, and he talked about how the first thing is open up all the envelopes, all those envelopes that you're fearful of opening, like get clear on what's the actual picture of what do you owe. And then equally on the other side, look through what are the invoices of what do people owe you. And I think that's that exercise for any business owner is it keeps on coming up. Like if you've got into a position where you're in difficulty, it's first get visibility. And I think therefore, how do you avoid getting into difficulty? A lot of it comes down to having the process in place that mean that having visibility is a constant thing, not something that's a one-off exercise. It's how do you make sure that at any given moment you can see exactly what's happening in the business, that you can see your essential costs versus growth costs, that you can see the ingoings, the outgoings, where you've got money owed or money that you owe, and having that clarity. So I absolutely love that, Ian. Thank you so much for sharing that. For people who would like to learn more from you, I'd highly recommend people check out the Leaky Bucket podcast. Obviously, with your experience as an accountant, you provide huge value there, but it's not like, it's just about accountancy. You cover a variety of topics on different business challenges. So highly recommend people check that out. Where else can people connect with you, learn more about what you and the team at MBS do?
Yeah, so I'm most active on LinkedIn. So you can find me there. But if you also pop over to our website, which is mbsaccountants.co.uk, we've actually got a financial health score quiz there that you can test about your financial controls and your financial clarity and how good is your pathway towards financial freedom. Only takes 2 or 3 minutes, and it gives you some steps that you can then take afterwards as well to improve that.
Fantastic. That sounds excellent. Yeah, no, I haven't run that for a while. I think I'll have to run that again myself just to see how that's going. So that's really, really good. So I highly recommend people go to the MBS Accountants website. I also mentioned the ebook that we wrote that includes a load of processes, particularly around cash flow, to help make sure that you've got both visibility but also cost control and chasing payments and all those things in your business. You can find that at airmanual.link/cashflow/ebook. That's the Business Leader's Guide to Improving Cash Flow. Fantastic. Well, Ian, thank you so much for joining me. You've been fantastic as expected.
Thank you, Alexis. It's been really good. Thank you.
Good stuff. Well, as regular listeners, and I know that Ian knows, I run a weekly webinar on how to free up 15 hours a week, remove the constant stress of running a business, and unlock growth. Although we don't go deep into cash flow specifically on that session, the approach that we share is a game changer, particularly if you're looking to free up your time and to do some of the things that Ian talked about earlier about getting from a position of where you got like 4 people and everything's a nightmare and you're required as part of every part of the business to getting to a team that can actually scale and you're not involved in the day-to-day. You can find out more and register for the next one at airmanual.co/webinar. Well, otherwise, that's it for this episode of De-Stress Your Business. Massive thank you again to Ian Morgan for joining us and sharing his valuable insights on a variety of areas, including cash flow management. But if you've found today's episode helpful, we'd love to hear about it. Share it on social media, tag us in, and ideally, let us know your key takeaway. We'd really greatly appreciate it, and it also helps other people hear about this podcast, because ultimately, when it comes to cash flow, people often don't talk about being in difficulty when it comes to cash flow or even just being worried about it. And so they might not reach out to you to say, I'm having this issue. So a really valuable thing that you can do is just put that out there in the world, help us share episodes like this, and hopefully it reaches the right people that need to hear those messages to solve really a problem that can hit people both in the business and personally. So please do that. And of course, to learn more about Ian and his work, be sure to check out the MBS Accountants website and the Leaky Bucket podcast. Remember, business doesn't have to be constantly stressful. Do subscribe and listen into our next episodes so that you can hear practical strategies to make your business journey less stressful and more successful. Otherwise, thank you very much, Ian, again. Everyone else, until next time, have fun.